Good evening, everyone. We'll now call this meeting to order. Thank you very much. We have present with us Councilwoman Nazi Sierra, Vice Mayor John Burgess, Councilwoman Wendy Lobos, and Councilman Melvin McCormick. Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to receive November 13, 2007 minutes, tab 1. I move to approve. It's been properly moved. And it's been properly moved and seconded. Any comments or questions from council? No. All in favor say aye. Aye. And the ayes carry. Item B, public school facilities element.
Mayor and Council, it's a recommendation that we discuss the adoption of the amended and restated interlocal agreement for the public school facility planning in Miami-Dade County interlocal agreement and the related amendments to the public schools facilities, intergovernmental coordination, and capital improvement elements of the city's comp plan. And schedule items for adoption for transmittal at upcoming local planning agency, planning and zoning board, and city council meetings. Basically, what we are complying here is with a state mandate that under the Growth Management Act of 2005 that the state passed, we have to bring our comprehensive plan into accordance dealing with school concurrency. They've begun to treat school concurrency as they do road concurrency, in which they go and from recommending what when a developer comes in and the school growth, they say it's at 110% already, and the recommendation it used to be 125 before the development might run into difficulty and concurrency, and it didn't have to. So what this is doing is a couple of things. I think one of the main issues is that it's setting that concurrency at 100%, and as opposed to 125, and that's one. The capital improvement portion, and we also have to enter into an interlocal agreement and change our interlocal agreement with the county. This is, again, I would say, mandated by the state. What we have to do, it's a good thing in planning for growth and school concurrency, making sure that we don't overbill for the schools in the area.
And Kurt, while I certainly understand the need of it and agree with it, I still have concerns that their level of service standards, and it says shall not apply to charter schools except they do give an exception now that the capacity of both charter and magnet will be credited against the impact of development. But once again, no credit will be given for either charter or magnet if the district enrollment is at or above 100% of capacity. So what happens is you still have, like we have 2 charter schools in the city of Homestead with about 2,400 kids, and they're not going to count that in the level of service capacity. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, I think the way they would do that, if another developer comes in, they will take the student count. If it's 100 students, I'll use what we were talking about, 100 students, and that were going to be gained through this development, and your charter schools had 1,000 kids in it. I think it was, 10%? Mm-hmm. You could go over that 10% as a developer. You'd get credit for that. 10 more students, for example.
So it's somewhat of an improvement over the past.
It's much improved now. I have Chad here and Cherie get into the more technical end of it if you would like. If you have something to add to that, I might not have explained that the best.
The only thing I'll say is that the requirement that...
This is Chad Friedman from our office, for those of you who
okay.
know.
Yeah,
welcome, the new council. I haven't had a chance to meet all of you yet. The only thing I would say is that particular issue you just raised, Mayor Bell, was discussed, and actually right now it's very fluid because a lot of changes are being made in response to the Department of Community Affairs because they've already reviewed the counties, and that particular language is going to be taken out in the next draft. So the credit will still be given if it is over 100%.
Okay, good. All right, I'll entertain a motion to move this. It's been properly moved by the Vice Mayor and seconded by Councilwoman Sierra. Any further comments, questions from council?
I do have a question, just for clarification. What I saw the changes that were made. Was there a committee from the city of Homestead that had input into what was being changed, or?
Yes, Susan Treverton from Poor Attorney's Office attended all the meeting and representing the city of Homestead.
Thank you.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. And the ayes carry. Thank you. Item C, termination of Advantage Group of Florida Communications, LCC Fiber Optic Network Marketing and Management Agreement, tab 3.
As Mayor and Council, staff recommends that the fiber optic network marketing management agreement between the City of Homestead and AGC, which is Advantage Group of Florida Communications, be terminated, and that the city should issue a request for proposal to find another partner to work with our fiber optic ring. The AGC has tried valiantly. They had some issues, but have not come through and have defaulted on the agreement. We had some discussion earlier about assignment of the agreement to another company. We believe that things have changed since we made this initial agreement because we've satisfied a grant that we used to build that fiber optic ring. So now the city's in a position to maybe improve its return on a fiber ring when it partners with someone else. And we gave several options in the supporting documentation, but we feel that going on an RFP is probably our best bet now. See who's out there, see who's interested.
I'll move it with questions, Mayor.
It's been properly moved by Councilwoman Waldman.
I'll second it.
It's been seconded by Councilwoman Wendy Lobos. Question?
Thank you. As I recall, the last time that we had this discussion from the podium and the dais, that we asked that credentials, references from the party that was at the podium. Have you received anything?
Not until yesterday afternoon did we receive a packet from it's kind of a new group that's been put together. They did look, sounded as though they were qualified, but we hadn't had an opportunity before this meeting.
Okay.
We received nothing really until yesterday afternoon late, and I really hadn't even had a chance to go through that because kind of the die is cast by then if they don't get it in before then.
Okay, well, it's my opinion that we should go out on RFP, but, you know, at the end of the day, they may be the only ones that's going to bid on it anyway, and they may be the only ones that has any interest in it, but I do think we should do the RFP. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I have a question, Mayor Bell. The previous company also defaulted in their agreement, I was seeing in the notes. So now we're in the situation where this company has defaulted, and the company that they have given this agreement to, KG, you said, did not submit any documents, so yesterday afternoon. What is the, like, why are these companies having issues with the, keeping with the agreement?
Well, I think when we go with this grant, the grant's tied to creating jobs, and that becomes somewhat of a burdensome task for some of the companies to reach the amount of jobs, especially when they're starting up in the area with their regular startup costs. The first time was Latham Knapp that came in. Just did not get the things done after repeated discussions and urging to that, you know, and letting them know the time frames. We could not take a chance on losing the grant and having to pay the money back. So we had to default them. This one, this latest one, AGC, were partners with, kind of partnered in with KG Communications at the time, and they had one of the principals of the kind of the DNC, I think. DCN. DCN, get it backwards. DCN went bankrupt. That kind of threw a monkey wrench into their whole operation that they never really recovered from. And they took a loss, AGC I'm referring to for sure, maybe others as well, took a loss on that activity. But for us, it puts us in a position where, you know, we just have to move to the next to get done what we need to get done. And that's kind of...
And I think the healthiest process is because even though the person that defaulted has assigned this to a company, the best thing that we can do as a city, in my opinion, is to go ahead and put this out to bid. And there are many more companies that are online now with cable, and if it is the same people that have been assigned, at the end of the day, then they'll be back here at the dais anyway. So I think the best thing we can do and the most healthy thing that we need to do is put this out to bid.
A comment, Mayor Bell?
Well, are you finished, Ms. Levis?
Yes, on that. Yes.
Yes.
Don't you agree, Kurt, that probably the major problem was the underestimating the cost? I know with the first group, that's that was the reason that they just couldn't carry on. I mean, it was new to the city, it was new to them, and I just think it was the cost. They underestimated their budget.
Well, I think that played a part, especially in the first group. Second group, with the bankruptcy, it had nothing to do with down here.
But the first group.
Yeah, the first group, it was cost, and it was almost like the guy had the technical knowledge, but he was like a one-man show.
Just having the manager knowledge.
Yes, right.
Mr. Burgess?
Two things. I see we're going to get an appraisal, and I know that we just entered into an agreement with a company to do that. Do you have any idea when we'll be getting that? Or how long they think it'll take to do that appraisal?
I haven't heard exactly when they'll get back, but what we're referring to is that we are getting the fiber optic ring appraised, so we'll know a value, so when we go out to RFP again, that we'll have a current value of our property, so that we'll know where we want to start and where the ballpark needs to be there. I'm not quite sure. Is that Scott Robin is also a vice president of the telecommunications things for us?
Good evening, Council. My name is Scott Robin. I'm with the law firm of Weiss, Stewart & Helfman as well. The appraisal estimates that it'll take approximately 30 to 60 days from the time that they begin actually doing the appraisal to get it completed and to provide us an actual survey with all the results.
What are we going to do to ensure whoever wins this bid that they don't enter into default? Are we going to add anything into it? Is there anything we can do to help the whole process along so that we don't have these problems with the next person that bids on it?
Well, the process that we anticipate is, one, after we get the appraisal, we'll write up an request for proposal. And in there we can put the requirements that we need that be required for financials. I mean, even though this last group had the financials, there was something that did not relate to this particular operation, related to another operation, but it took down the company that was kind of the center of the hub or the spoke of what was going on with the group, and that's where they ran into their real problem. Of course, we're going to review credential. That'll be one of the requirements in the RFP. We'll be putting that together once we get the evaluation of our fiber optic ring.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions from council?
I just have one further question, I'm sorry. All the money that was spent in repairing what this company should have repaired, it's been reimbursed to the city, right? All of it?
That's, we applied, I don't know if we have received it. Mark's telling me we've received it. They had to put a letter of credit up for $100,000, so, and part of their default is that, one, and they're required to repair once we have a break. Of course, the construction we've had around here, so we did have some breaks, and they did not respond. We had to respond, get it done, then go to their letter of credit to collect that money.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions?
Just a comment, which just to clarify the record, there was that this contract was assigned. They've requested assignment. The contract has not been assigned, and what we're doing is we're terminating the contract, so there is nothing to assign.
Right. Thank you. All in favor, say aye. 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 And the ayes carry. Thank you. Item E, Police Pension Plan Amendment Ordinance. I'm sorry, item D, South Florida Regional Planning Council Revolving Loan Fund Transfer. I'll entertain a motion for put on the table. It's been properly moved.
I second it.
And seconded. Mr. Manager?
On the transfer of the revolving loan fund to the South Florida Regional Planning Council, in '93, after the storm, one of the things to help recovery of business was the provision of a revolving loan fund. The city used the revolving loan fund initially, and to some success, some not success on the loans. But of late, we've had very few people coming in and applying because it's a different time, a different situation now. The revolving loan fund requirements are somewhat restrictive, and a lot of people can't meet them, especially the job requirements of the amount of money versus the number of jobs you have to, and the match that you have to do.
And it's my understanding that most cities don't manage their own revolving loan fund anyway. It's always...
well, they started going back to the South Florida Regional Council. Even the Beacon Council for Dade County turned theirs back in to to the Regional Planning Council because it just wasn't working as intended.
Mayor Bell, I have a
Yes,
question.
Ms. Waldman?
Well, the new council doesn't know how I feel about this, but certainly everyone else does. I don't think the city should be in the business of loaning money. And I know we have, what, about $690,000 outstanding, Dan? And how many of those hundreds of thousands of dollars are no pays?
We've had to, no pay. Right now, currently we have 5 that are no pay, not current.
And 5 current and 5 no pay.
Right.
Now, when this is turned over, will they be able to go after the people
Yes,
that
they will.
haven't paid?
Everything gets transferred over to the South Florida Regional
Okay,
Council.
including the delinquents and including the
And default,
the default and the procedural measures that need to be taken to
Right.
to
We
make
turn
it
all our
current.
files over.
Okay. And then what is the balance that's going to be transferred? About 850?
828,000.
828,000? Okay, thank you very much.
Further comments or questions from council?
Mayor Bell, I have a comment. The original purpose of this fund was to fill the gap of existing local financing markets. This money then goes to this South Florida Regional Planning Council. Is it still going to be available for the people of this area?
Yes. They can go through the South Regional Planning Council to apply.
Do we have anything here where, let's say, we would be able to provide applications so that they don't have to drive to wherever it is?
We can follow up on that and ask them if we can have the applications at the CRA offices.
Right, okay, thank you.
So the process would be somewhat the same, except for the management would be different?
Right.
Okay, thank you. All in favor, say aye. Aye. And the ayes carry. Now, item E, Police Pension Plan Amendment Ordinance.
Council, it's our recommendation, along with the Police Pension Board and the PBA collective bargaining units, that Section 22.5 of the Police Retirement Plan be amended, basically to clarify the normal retirement dates for people going into the Deferred Retirement Option Plan, which we in short call the DROP plan. Basically what happens now, we've got, I believe, three retirement dates that you can retire, normal retirement age for a police officer. The problem we had is that when officers fell in the middle of that, they missed the full 8 years of the drop. If they didn't take, there was a confusion of if they didn't take it the first time they became eligible, then that started the clock, and when they took it, they wouldn't be able to fill the full 8 years. So the way the clarification is written here is that your latest retirement date is the date that, well, your normal retirement date, but if you don't take it until your latest retirement date, then that's when your 8 years started, because you can take it at 20 years and out, okay, or you can take it at 25 years. You get my drift there. So whenever you take it, when you decide what your normal retirement date is out of those 3, then your 8 years clock begins. So that the 20 years and out was before was a question that I could have gone out then. I didn't, so now I lose, and I go 2 years later, I lose 2 years in the drop plan.
And the budgetary impact is, there's no budgetary impact, which is important.
No, this is all, yeah, right, this is all involved in the...
Mayor Bell, I'll move it with just a quick
It's been
comment.
properly moved?
I'll second.
And seconded by Ms. Sierra, and go ahead, Ms. Waldman.
Just for the record, I just want to make sure everybody understands that everybody's already agreed to this.
Right.
This is nothing that's going to come as a shock to the police department or the unions or anybody else. Everybody's agreed upon it. And essentially, it's really just a cleanup, and it just makes it a smoother transition and a smoother way for people to know in the future what to be expected. So, thank you, Mayor Bell.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions from council? All in favor, say aye. Aye. And the ayes carry. Florida Municipal Power Agency Safety Training, tab 6. Let me get a motion on the floor. I move. It's been properly moved by Councilman Lobos and seconded by Ms. Sierra. Go ahead, Mr. Manager.
Mayor and Council, this is a recommendation by staff that we enter into agreement with FMPA, the Florida Municipal Power Agency, to provide safety and skill training for our utility linemen. This is predominantly lineman training, and the FMPA is partnering with the Municipal Electric Authority of Georgia to put some expertise together and create training programs for linemen and skill sets that we need and every lineman will need. And we're partnering with them. There's approximately, I believe, 20, up to 20 employees. There's 13 organizations that are grouping together at this time to join this training format that's being offered. The cost will be $29,085 annually. They'll do 10 safety training sessions per year. They'll do them on site, and then there's some special training that occurs as well.
And it's a no-brainer. It's an absolute must. Any question?
Well, I have...
Yeah, so I mean,
I do have one question. This is annually, right? How many years are we signing this for?
This is a 3-year agreement.
This is a 3-year agreement, okay. So we would sign this every 3 years. That's...
Now, I will say that we are still, we're ready to move on this. We won't move until we make sure that they solidify the number of participants. There's 13, and this is what our cost is 13. If 2 dropped out, then they would rearrange that. Then we'd have to reevaluate whether we would participate or not. And
the amount would be the same?
No, it will change the amount.
Okay.
So we will wait with this approval, if it occurs, with this approval until it's solidified as to what the deal really is. And then if it's the same 13, then we'll move forward. If there's something changes, then we'll come back.
Thank you.
Ms. Barbaros?
Does this sort of training come with any kind of certification?
Yes, Ken, is Ken? Yeah. Yeah.
And what's the impact on the city's insurance? I mean, I'm imagining that this is...
Well, I don't know if we have any direct reduction in insurance there, but I think, for example, the CPR thing or the lineman, retrieval of a lineman on a pole that's been injured, those kinds of things. I think the benefit, especially liability-wise, always training when something happens is one of the suspects that everybody looks at or calls upon, either a lack of or that we did it. So training is extremely important, especially in the nature of that job.
Well, I asked that question because these 20 employees that we're looking to train here, is there a requirement to be able to participate in this training?
There will be. There's a lineman. Yes, we will require them to take these. We do safety training now for all employees. That we require these employees to come and take safety training. They're on topics that they do every day, they run into every day. For example, in the summer we'll do something on heat exhaustion. We need to know that for the safety of our employees and supervisors and the like to recognize it, to protect themselves from injury. So they will have to take the training.
Mr. Burris, do you have a
If
question?
we need to add employees in the future, can we add people in over the 3-year period, or are we limited to only 20?
Well, we have 20, but we can add employees. It might be a little extra with the employees, but we can add.
Any further comments? Any further questions? Ms. Waldman?
Mr. Ivey, isn't this the same training that the lineman that we recently recognized at the podium? Is this the same kind of training that he received?
I think he was in the apprentice program, because we also ran it was hard to get linemen in. Everybody wants linemen, and what we had run is an apprentice program. It's almost like our reserve officer program for the police department. We'll do the training of these people in the apprentice program. When they go through the training and complete it successfully, then they're hired on as a lineman, and it enables us to train our own people, because it's really hard to hire them on the market, because a lot of people are looking for linemen.
Very good. Any further comments or questions from council? All in favor say aye. Aye. And the ayes carry. Thank you. And now, the next item on the agenda. Nobody's allowed to leave the dais. What I'd like to do right now is to see, by a show of hands, everybody that's here to address the next item on the agenda. Okay. Very good. Very good. Either side, just to address it. And I want to get a motion on the floor. What I'd like to do is, I'm going to set the clock for 3 minutes per person, and so that we are not here all night long, and I'd like to go ahead and...
No rebuttal?
Good job.
I'll move it, Mayor Bell.
It's been properly moved by Councilwoman
second it.
Waldman and seconded by Councilwoman Lobos. The item is G, renaming a football stadium at Harris Field in honor of Don Drinkan, tab 7. And what I'll do is, I think I would like to have the main proponent and the main opponent to let them have an additional closing so that we're giving balance to both sides. Mr. Marcus, would you like to open up the floor? And everybody, when you come up, please, as we start the clock, please state your name and your address for the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've never said that before. For the record, my name is Mike Marcus. I'm an attorney and a registered lobbyist with the city. My law office is located at 317 North Chrome Avenue in Homestead. But I'm not here as a lobbyist today. I'm here as a person whose life has been touched by the person that we are trying to honor tonight, and that's Don Drinkan. The people in the room here, the people that are supporting the naming, not the renaming of the stadium, would you please show me your sign and stand up? Stand up. Stand up. Come on. We have a number. Thank you very much. As you can see, I joined with a number of people who have come this evening to show you how they feel about this fine individual. And what we'd like to do, again, if I could make a point, this is not the renaming of the stadium. There's a number of misunderstandings. This is not the renaming of Harris Field, okay? It is only the football stadium at Harris Field that has never been named, and we're requesting merely that this council recognizes and honors this man by naming the football stadium in his honor. The precedence for this is that the Dr. Millie Rodeo Arena at Harris Field has been named for a great community leader, and this is we're asking no more than that. We're going to initially keep our presentation to a minimum. There'll be 4 or 5 people on our side, because obviously we don't want to. We have a lot of information in your packets, and I hope everybody read the beautiful editorial that Mike Dill wrote in today's news leader, which I think sums it up perfectly. At this point, though, the first speaker, and again we'll keep it short. The first speaker is going to be Joel Fanari.
Thank you, Mr. Marcus. Would you do me a favor, though? Don't start the clock. Let them state their name and their address, and then start the clock, so that we don't use their name and address so that they can have the first 3 minutes. So, no, sir. Everybody needs to come to the microphone. Everybody will have an opportunity, pro or con. If you're in favor of it or against it, everybody will have an opportunity to go to the...
I'm saying, I thought this was a meeting of the council to have a discussion and change.
We're doing all of the above, sir. Yes. We will have a discussion amongst ourselves.
How do you get on the agenda?
You can stand up and speak, sir. Even if you're not signed up, you can stand up.
First one in there.
Okay. You'll get your opportunity. All you have to do is get in line. Right there.
Could we have the gentleman's name for the record as long as he spoke?
In a minute.
Just back there.
Go ahead.
I'll back away if you want him to come up and talk.
Why don't you go ahead? Why don't you go right ahead? Go right up to the microphone, sir. Right to the microphone. Hand it to the clerk, please. Thank you, sir.
Mayor Bell, council members, staff, city manager. My name is Steve Biondo. I've got a little note here to keep me straight, so I won't go straight because I am not a public speaker, and I did not realize that I was going to speak to the audience. I thought I was going to speak just to the council. That was my understanding. The council meeting, they were going to discuss it, not the audience. So that's the reason I was very much unprepared for it. I am 83 years old, lived in Homestead all my life. I've lived in and around the Homestead area and the Redland area for 83 years, like I say. My understanding is that you will discuss the petition to change the name of T.J. Harris Field. This is a discussion that should take serious. This is a discussion I will read because I am getting confused. My understanding is that you will discuss a petition to change T.J. Harris Field name. That is a discussion that should not be taken lightly, for you will have other petitions in the future that you will have to consider. Other categories to honor people who do work for the city, such as in the field of education, sports, city service, county service, state service. These are categories that when you're honoring people, you consider on which category you're honoring them in. I believe a petition should be in the school system, which I understand has so many options. I'm sorry, I'm getting confused. As I say, you should not take this lightly, for you will have others to petition like that in the future. To honor such as field education law. I believe this petition should be in the school system. This is where this petition should be in. They have many, which I understand, they have many options. I'm not here to hurt or insult anybody. Coach Stringham worked hard because he loved his work and his students. I don't doubt that a bit. This is not a Homestead High versus South Dade issue. Some people have made it that issue. It is an issue of honoring T.J. Harris for his outstanding service to the city of Homestead and the soiling of this country. To change the name in any way which would be a dishonor to his memory and to his family who live in Homestead today. My brother was honored for his services. They honored a boulevard in his name. And I would hate to think down the road that they would want to change that name. That would be a dishonor. Dishonor one person to honor another person, it doesn't make too much sense. But to honor a person who has worked hard and deserves it, which I know the coach has, I think there's other facilities and other ways to do it.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Bionda. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Canari.
My name is Joel Finari, 710 Southeast 29th Drive, Homestead, Florida. The renaming of the football stadium at Harris Field, again, it's a name addition as well as a renaming, I guess, because the name that we're looking for is Don Drinkon Stadium at Harris Field. In regard to the Harris family, we would not have started this endeavor unless we had the support of the Harris family. Because we agree with everybody else. You don't want to disrespect anybody in this town. But like Mike said, the precedence has already been set. The Dr. Milley Rodeo Grounds at Harris Field, the precedent is already set. So it's not like we're doing anything that hasn't, or asking to do something that hasn't been done. Don Drinkon not only established what he did through South Dade High School, but Don Drinkon is an icon in Dade County. I have put on your tables there some letters from every single school that uses Harris Field in support of this Don Drinkon Stadium. But one I want to read to you is the top one, which comes from a gentleman by the name of Walt Frazier. If you don't know who Walt Frazier is, Walt is the legendary football coach at Carroll City High School. He's the guy that always wears the choo-choo hat. Walt, I just want to read the first couple lines of Walt's letter because it says it all right here. In my illustrious career, I have been extended many honors. One of the highest and most worthy honors I have had is to write a letter for Don Drinkon's name to be added to Harris Field. The very idea of the name of the field would be Drinkon at Harris Field fills my heart with pride and jubilation. When we see a name in a place of honor, the name should be worthy. Don's name would only serve to add prestige, character to an already existing model. Now, you know, the history, quickly, prior to 1979, the only school that used Harris Field as a home field was South Dade High School. Then in 79-80, Homestead High was built, and from that point until after Hurricane Andrew, that field was exclusively for South Dade and Homestead High School. That is absolutely correct. And there was a contract, Mr. Herron will probably vouch for it, that there was a limited number of games that could be played at Harris Field during that time. I believe it was 12. To show you how it's changed, this year alone, 38 games were played at Harris Field. South Dade and Homestead can only have 5 home games each. So all those other games were played by schools, which are indicated in the letter. They use it as their home facility. In Dade County, we have the greatest athletes in Dade County, but we have the worst facilities. And what has to happen is now, with the addition of all the high schools that we have, what has to happen is that schools like Varela, Braddock, Killian, Palmetto, they use Harris Field as a home field. The night that we were here in front of the Human Relations Board, Carl Park, and I believe it was Braddock were playing a football game at Harris Field. So the reality is it's not a home field for anybody. It's a county facility. And as a citizen of this town, it would make certainly me and many of these people proud to tell the Don Drinkon story. I had the opportunity to live the Don Drinkon story, but we want to be able to tell it and let it live on. My time is up, I know. I'll be back.
Thank you, Mr. Finari. Next in line. Mike, can we let somebody else speak before you go back?
Yeah, I want to introduce the next speaker. The next speaker is the most successful football coach in the history of Homestead High, Mr. Dale Hardy.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. I've had a chance to see these things from both sides of the highway. Having been employed by Homestead Senior High School for 11 years as their head football coach, I definitely had my fill of going up against Don and going up against South Dade. Over the years, I've gotten to know Don very well. As a matter of fact, over the last 8 years, I have served as his offensive coordinator and assistant football coach. I'm retired from coaching now. And when this issue was brought to my attention, I started thinking about it. Well, you know, when you start thinking about naming things in something as big as this, you want to make sure that you do it for all the right reasons. Just if you decide not to name this stadium after Don Drinkon, you want to do that for the right reason. I've had a chance to get to know Don like probably nobody else has as far as a coach is concerned. Nobody in this room has ever had a chance to walk into a Dade County football coaches meeting or a national football coaches meeting where Don was present and see the respect that he received from the people that were there. I don't think anybody has had a chance to see what kind of respect that he has received from other coaches throughout the county. But most importantly, I can't think of anybody who has coached football in this county who has done as much for kids in this community as Don has. Not only has he served as their football coach, but he also taught just about everybody that lives south of Kendall Drive how to drive.
period. Now, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but, you know, that may be up for debate here, but he's impacted lives not just on the football field, but in the classroom as well. When we talk about the right reason for doing things or the wrong reason for doing things, I can't think of a wrong reason for doing this. And I don't think that there's anybody out there that has been involved with this sport that can think of a wrong reason. And just this last little footnote, I did a little unofficial research. Since 1969, when Don started coaching in Dade County, there has not been a football coach in this county that has coached as many games as Don Drinkon has at Harris Field. I may be second to him because I've coached an awful lot of football games at Harris Field, but I don't think there's anybody that has coached as many football games as Don has at Harris Field. Because of that reason and the fact that, you know, when we rename things, we want to rename them because maybe history has been rewritten. Well, I think the history of Harris Field has certainly been rewritten by Don Drinkon. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next in line. Mike, are you going to address that?
No, Madam Mayor, I was just going to introduce the next speaker.
Okay.
On a personal note, the next speaker would like to give you some insight into Don Drinkon and what he does. This is not about football. This is about life. And I'd like to introduce, it's my pleasure to introduce Linda Fagan.
Switch it off real quick. Just switch it off real quickly. Then bend it, and then switch it back on. Hello? Okay.
I didn't graduate from down here. My children went to South Dade High School, and I have a medical practice here. My name is Linda Fagan. I have a medical practice at 45 Northwest 4th Street and here in Homestead, and I take care of probably 90% of you folks sitting here. I'd like to tell you a little bit of a story. In 1985, when I first went into practice with Dr. House in regards to Don Drinkon calling me on the phone and asking me to do physicals for kids who couldn't afford to have their physicals done to play football. That's just one of the things that Don Drinkon did and does and will continue to do. I find the strangest thing is I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me is one of the verses that describes Don. He's a Christian, and that's one of the things I completely like about him. Faith, a father, a friend, future, admired, an advisor, idolized, intellect, integrity, a teacher, thoughtful, a hero, a husband, heartfelt, honest. My building is named after two wonderful men in this community. And I feel like I have had the privilege of meeting people like Dr. Robert Douglas and Dr. Bernard Tully and Dr. House, who was mayor in this town. But Don exemplifies everything that could possibly exemplify as a fine man. I have had that privilege of meeting that fine man and helping him throughout these 20-something years to help kids get to where they need to go, in particular their health, whether they were having problems or issues in school, etc. My son is one of those kids, and I am grateful that Don brought him into my life. He's adopted. We adopted him, and Don apparently called my home asking if this young man could come and live with us because of tragedies that had happened in his own family. There's no racial line here of white or black or Hispanic or whatever. This is a fine young man who I love and am proud to say that he is my son. I'd like to introduce you to him. His name is Sunset Graham, and I would like to have you consider naming that field after that wonderful man who exemplifies what every man should exemplify.
Thank you, Linda.
How y'all doing? I ain't no public speaker, so. But now, my name's Sensei Graham. I live 17305 Southwest 300th Street. I'm just here today to just talk on that just for the little short time that I got. I don't see why, this to me is like a no-brainer, Like I said, people, this is not a racial issue. This is not an issue about Homestead, South Dade, who's more of a home field will it be. It's a person who done everything they could for kids and making sure kids go to school and making sure people have somewhere to go. Just a father figure of a person. This is not the issue that other people try to make it. Yeah, like Coach Fernandez said and like Coach Hardy said, there's not been one coach, not one coach that you can think of that's been doing this as long as this man has been doing it. This man has been coaching. He came and coached at South Dade from 71 to 72, came back in 86. Homestead or South Ridge wasn't even thought about until 79. So to make it like a Homestead South Dade issue is ridiculous to me. And for all the things, racial issues, my cousin was coach at Homestead Senior High, Coach Bobby McCray. That's my cousin. I love him. That's my family. But to say, he's done as much as Coach Drake has done for kids is to be wrong, That's totally wrong. I grew up playing at Florida City Razorbacks, Coach Bo, everybody, coming up around the neighborhood. That's where we started off. Those were great coaches. Those were people who taught us how to be leaders in life and not to fall for what the street life gives you and stuff like that. And Coach Dracon was one of those people. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't know the Fagans. I probably wouldn't be where I'm at today. And to say all this stuff and the reasons why it shouldn't be, why shouldn't it be? Who paid attention to Harris Field or the little sign under the scoreboard other than you looking at the scoreboard to say who's winning or losing a game? Who's paid attention to that sign to see what it says? Nobody. All people worried about at that game is home and away. Who's winning? So to sit here and try to make it a big issue to why it shouldn't be named Don Drecon Stadium at Harris Field, even the Harris family, his son, is in favor of naming this field after Coach Drecon. Why not? The man's not coaching anymore. He's not affecting anybody. He's never gave nobody the cold shoulder. He's done everything he can for anybody in this community. He went out his way for I don't know how long, for everybody I know. All my friends, even from 94 to 98, there's been parents calling from Homestead to get this man to get their kids into school. So that must say something. Like I said, I don't know, not one coach. So to not consider this would be just ludicrous to me because people try to make an issue out of nothing, And I don't see why this is a big issue. This is not going to separate a community. Most of the people who go to Homestead are still my friends. They just decided to go to Homestead and I decided to go to South Dade. It was no big difference. I still love them. They're my friends. They're like my brothers. Whoever I played against, we still was our friends after the game. It was nothing a big issue. But thanks.
Thank you very much. And for someone who doesn't like public speaking, you did very, very well. Excellent. Ms. Berger, are you next? Stacy?
I was going to introduce, if there's anybody for, they can go ahead and speak. I was going to introduce the opposition.
Fair enough.
Madam Mayor, we go ahead and our initial presentation is completed, and then we reserve the right for rebuttal.
You absolutely may. Absolutely. Your side did beautifully, by the way. Very well. The floor is yours.
My name is Stacy Berger. I'm going to introduce a few of the distinguished members that we have in the audience that are going to speak on behalf of the opposition for not changing the name of Harris Field. I'm going to introduce Tommy Sumner. He's the Booster Club person in charge of everything football at Homestead Senior High School. So, Mr. Sumner.
Good evening. My name is Tommy Sumner. I reside at 1454 Northwest 7th Place in Florida City. Everybody in the community know me as Coach Bo. I've been in the community as a volunteer and as a director for 27 years. The kids in my youth program attend Homestead and South Dade High School. For many years, I spoke with kids to go on to South Dade and to go on to Homestead, and it didn't bother me which way they went. Until this year, my son is at Homestead High School. He's a freshman, started on varsity. I would like to get to the nitty-gritty of this. You're saying that it's not about Homestead, it's not about South Dade. It is. It is. I've watched kids go both directions, and it really didn't faze me at all. I think Coach McCray is a great coach, Coach Dracon. The coaches that coached me, I'm a graduate from South Dade High School in 1977. I played at Harris Field, and I had good years at South Dade. And I still care about South Dade. And I speak to kids now at South Dade. I was on the phone today with Untrail Road. With Untrail Road today, talking about Sean. There have been approximately about 12, 13 players from Florida City, from my youth program, have went to the pros. I would like to say to you coaches and teachers, you're doing your job, you did your job well. It shouldn't be done for the rename of this stadium, because I think it has something to do with the community. The Harris family should continue to absorb their reward from this community, from the kids that grow up in this community, just as I did. There are young men and women in this community now that would deserve this more than any. And I agree with the gentleman there saying that we're opening up some doors. If we start doing that now, there's young men like Officer Whipple, that was the first national Part 1 coach in the state of Florida. He volunteers his time. There's a young man over at Dick Connolly, Ray Cox, that's been coaching and running Dick Connolly football for 20-some years. Chief Pedro Taylor, that was a youth coach in my football program. These gentlemen, if you want to reward somebody to give up their time away from their job after an 8- and 10-hour-a-day job and come out and volunteer their times with these kids, along with bringing money out of their pockets, feeding them and paying registration. So if you look back at it, there's many people that deserve what you're asking to do today, but it shouldn't be done. Every school could find people to say good things about their coaches. Every school, South Dade, South Ridge, Killian, Palmetto, they all will. And it should stay within the school board. If you want to recognize your coaches for performing well, exceeding, then the school system should brainstorm and figure out some way to name your stadium, a wing of your school, or whatever in your facility, and name it there. Leave the community to our youth. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The next speaker I'd like to introduce is Mr. Walter Green. I had the privilege of being in his classroom. He is in the history department at Homestead Senior High School, and he is now going to speak on behalf of the opposition as well. Mr. Green.
Good afternoon. I really hadn't come prepared to speak. However, I am here representing the Homestead High History Department, and we feel that we explored the history, we reviewed the history, the actual naming of Harris Field and why it was done back in 1959, and we think that the honor should remain with Mr. Harris. This man went to an airport, I think a defunct airport, and secured the land for Harris Field. And it's because of him that all of this athletic prowess has been allowed to prosper. Renaming Harris Field after a coach would be like renaming a scholarship after one of the recipients. It really makes no sense. And it's dishonor to Homestead. It's a dishonor to the Harris family. And once you get into the business of renaming, then whoever's in power can rename it whatever they want, and pretty soon all meaning is lost. I urge you to keep it as Harrisfield. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. McCarthy, are you speaking this evening? Thank you. Just so you guys heard that she's for the opposition, but she's going to recuse herself from speaking this evening. Ms. Moore, are you speaking this evening? Okay. I'd like to introduce from the Alumni Association from the class of 1987, I was going to say 97, 1987, Ms. Juanita Ferguson Jackson. Also, she has some letters from the class of 87 that have been sent in that she would like to read into record. Ms. Jackson.
Good evening. My name is Juanita Jackson. My address is 15531 Southwest 300th Street, Homestead, Florida. I'm here tonight to oppose the renaming for several reasons, but I won't get into all of them. One thing is, I look at, as you know, I'm a graduate from Homestead Senior High. I look at Mr. Harris. He's dead now. So any information that I want to find out, I have to go to the books or go to the library and find out. But Mr. Drinkham, he's still living. So anything I want to know about him, I can go to him directly and get the information. That's just something to look at. But more than anything is, I once read that it says, give honor where honor is due. I took a card because I do support Don Drinkham. I support him to the utmost. I only heard wonderful things about this man. I haven't heard anything negative about him. But to rename a stadium that two schools share as their home team that lives in the same vicinity after one coach other than another one, I don't think that's fair. South Dade has built a brand new high school. It belongs to Dade County School Board. Don Drinkham works for Dade County School Board. They can rename the school after him. They also built the middle school next to it. Why not rename that school after him? Why not name a street after him? I tell you what, let's just name a whole wing after him at the new high school. There's other parks that are closer to South Dade. Let's not rename one of those parks after him. There's so many things that we can rename or name after him, not even rename, because they haven't been named yet, some of the places. But what I'm saying is, it's not fair. It's not fair to the community. Coach Bo, see, Mr. Drinkham might come into their life when they're, teenagers, but Coach Bo, I remember the time he coached Pee-wee. That means 5-year-old knuckleheads. I mean, you have to deal with them first. Let's start with the beginning. And then he gets them nice and firm. So when they go to high school, that the coach can instill more into them where it may absorb a little more. But it starts. It starts when they're Pee-wees. Let's not name the park Harrisfield after Coach Bowden. Because he doesn't just send kids to Homestead or South Dade. He sent them to both. He's in the community. I didn't even know his name, his surname or his real name until today. All I know is Coach Bo. So all I'm saying is, let's not just pick one person from one school. Let's pick someone in the community then that's sent to both schools, to all different schools. So that's why I oppose the renaming.
Thank you. Thank you very much. How many letters are there?
She has 3 for class of 87.
How many?
They're short, 3.
3. Okay. Are they're short?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I'm just, from Pamela Hernandez, I understand how South Dade High School loves their coach. All through my high school years, we loved our coaches. They are the motivators that get, you somehow into school spirit just by their presence alone. They seem to walk out on the field or a prep rally, and it's a total rush of school pride. Therefore, I think they should dedicate something to a coach that brought South Dade High School such honor. They should name their newly built auditorium after their coach. Just as Air Base Elementary did with their new library, it is named after their principal, Ronald Nicholson. They love their retired principal as much as South Dade High School loved their retiring coach. Therefore, they should name something after the South Dade coach, something attached to South Dade High School solely, not the community's Harrisville. I know they feel that Harrisville is their home. However, it is the home of a lot of people attached to different schools. I also feel changing the name of to honor a coach of one school takes away from the history of Harrisville. I went to Homestead High School, and Harrisville was our home field. I did not want my alma mater to have to go to their home field named after another school. That is just not right. I think that the name should remain Harrisville along with the history. Let the kids know how Harrisville got its name. Then they should understand why the name should remain the same. Thank you for your time in this matter. Sincerely, Pamela Hernandez, Homestead High School, Homefield, Harrisville, class of 87, 16261 Southwest 285 Street, Homestead, Florida, 33030. The next one is very short. It's from Robin Stack. Dear sirs, I have just been made aware of the request to rename Harrisville. While it is important to recognize those who have made great contributions to our community, we also need to choose the appropriate forum. On my recent visit to Homestead for the class of 86 Homestead High School reunion, I drove past the monastery of the school being built next to South Dade. Perhaps there is a gymnasium, a hallway, a sports field, or an overall building that could be dedicated to Don Drinkham. Harrisville has been a shared facility since the early 80s. I believe if you check the records, you'll see that Homestead Senior High School coaching staff have had much greater success in the field and have had more players go on to the NFL and have returned to support their community. Michael Barrow, Homestead Senior High School class of 87, has worked with the children of Homestead since entering the NFL and now works at UM. Alex Johnson, Homestead Senior High School class of 87, returned to coach and teach at Homestead. Those are only the two that I am familiar with. While at our reunion dinner on June 30th, I had the pleasure of sitting with Coach Kenneth Dodd. While listening to his many stories of past year, I lost count of the number of his former players that have gone on to play in the NFL, the number of players who still keep in touch with him, and those that he has lost along the way. Perhaps the field should be named after him. Thank you for your consideration. Robin Stack, Homestead Senior High School, class of 87, 2063, Van Auken Road, AUKEN, Newark, New York, 14513.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak on the opposition? Okay.
Stacy, are you finished? Are you going to address?
I'm getting ready to speak. Mayor Bell, this is the original, and then at the end you can give this to the city clerk's office. It's an original copy. Juanita's going to pass out for each of the council members. This is the petition, the entirety.
May I ask a question, Mayor Bell? May I ask a question?
Oh, certainly.
Is this what was on the disc?
That's part of what was on the disc.
Just part of it?
That's part of it.
Then all those hours looking at all the things, and I didn't want to...
Right. The majority of what you have there is on the disc, but there's additional pages that need to be added that have been added since you received that on Monday.
And how would we know where those pages are?
I have them in the back to submit to you.
Okay. So this is the disc?
This is the disc. Okay.
Thank you.
Before I get started, I have a letter from Fred Rhodes, who's out of town, former mayor. He's in Texas at this moment, and he asked me if I would read this letter into record. Fred Rhodes, 101 Northwest 21st Street, Homestead, Florida, 33030, dated November 2007.
Stacy, is it in here? Because I read Fred Rhodes' letter. Did you? Yeah.
He asked me to read it into record, but if you have it there and you acknowledge it's there.
Well, yeah, because you have 3 minutes, and so what we're doing is multiplying the time by everybody. It's like you're taking more than one turn. So if you go ahead and just jump right into it, we have Fred Rhodes' letter for the record.
Okay, so it's in the
I read
record
it today, and I'm assuming that the rest of the council did as well.
Okay, perfect. So the petition that you have also in front of you is the letter of we, the undersigned, its concerned citizens and/or voting taxpayers, students, faculty of Homestead Senior High School, local and out-of-town former residents who urge the city and the elected officials to vote no to the proposal. First of all, I'd like to address a comment that was made that says that Dr. Millie, before I speak on behalf of this, the Dr. Millie Rodeo Arena existed 11 years prior to Harris Field. Therefore, it's okay to change the name of Dr. Millie. It is too true.
There will be no discussion or arguing from the audience. You have your chance at the podium, and that's it. Stacy, but we need to get your name and address to the record.
I'm sorry.
We're going to turn the clock on.
Okay. It's Stacy Berger, 1433 Kitty Wade Court, Homestead, Florida, 33030. As I was saying, the Dr. Millie Rodeo Arena was known as the Homestead Rodeo Arena according to the Homestead Rodeo Association. It's celebrating its 59th year this January. Harris Field was named by the city resolution that's in your packet, 718, dated September 1959, and so it's 48 years old. The first thing I'd like to present as far as the question of whether or not it has a name or doesn't have a name, you have a copy of the memorial plaque outside of the stadium that states Harris Field, the stadium made possible through the heartfelt generosity of the community, 1981. You have a copy of the scoreboard, photocopy of the picture of the scoreboard. It says Harris Field. Also in your packet are 1959 Homestead Leader, which is the South Day News Leader, dated May of 1959 through February of 1960. And each of those refer to the stadium. Actually, it refers to the football field, and it refers to the property at Harris Field. The Resolution 718 states that it shall henceforth forever be known as Tom J. Harris Field. According to your naming and renaming policy, there's a couple of things that I'd like to point out as I pointed out to the Human Relations Board. The first criteria for naming or renaming a facility states that no more than one name can occur on the same facility or property, therefore it can't be Don Giancana at Harris Field. Number 5 states that no name will be considered that diminishes the historic integrity of the requested facility or property. It would change the history. In order for it to be renamed, it has to be by a supermajority vote. Number 8, the request is ineligible when a similar request has been considered and declined within 3 years. There's an email in your packet from Roscoe Warren stating that it was considered and rejected. Number 9 states that the named facilities or properties will be for perpetuity. Requests for naming of public facilities or properties will be ineligible where the facility or property has previously been named. If you look inside your packet, it says that Governor Collins in 1960 dedicated the field. Tom J. Harris attended the rodeo, and more than 10,000 people showed up for the dedication of Harris Field. It also states that Metro-Dade County, at the time not Miami-Dade, Metro-Dade County provided some of the funding to provide the facilities for 6 ball fields, a new football field, and a new rec building for the St. Louis Cardinals. All of that is in your packet. And if you have any questions, I'll answer the questions. I thank you for your time. And inside your packet also is the petition, and I will add additional pages in excess of 650 names signed by the community, an online petition in excess of 140 names, and a student petition in excess of 200 names that were collected from the students, the faculty, and the community.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Richard, what about the legalities of what Ms. Berger has just talked about as far as the legalities with the renaming that we have in our packet? the policy, City of Homestead policy?
A past city council adopted a document entitled the Policy for Naming, Renaming, Co-Designation, City of Homestead Facilities and Property. And it goes through a procedure, an application form. It gets filed with the clerk. It then goes to the Human Relations Board for a recommendation. And what's in front of you today is a recommendation from the Human Relations Board. The policy is several pages, but what's relevant is that in order to name a facility after a living individual, it requires a supermajority, which the document describes as a majority plus one. Not coincidentally, but the same majority plus one, and it sets up a whole series of rules which she read correctly. There's a provision that says that you can waive the rules coincidentally by a majority plus one. So that if the council wants to do this, it requires a majority plus one vote. And because of and to the extent that you feel like, to the extent that there's a problem with the 3-year requirement, you could waive that. To the extent that you feel that it may have been named before, you could waive that. But the bottom line is it's going to require a majority plus one vote, which is the same to waive the rules. So if you go by these guidelines, and I have not seen the email, so I'm not sure about the 3-year requirement, but there is a provision that says that you're not supposed to, it's ineligible for 3 years. But again, any of these rules can be waived. I guess what I'm saying is you really have I'm not helping you at all, but you have full discretion to do whatever you want with a majority plus one.
Mayor Bell, may I ask the attorney a question if you're finished?
Please.
Thank you.
Please. And then Ms. Sierra following Ms. Wellman.
Richard, I read all of it too, and to me, and I've heard this stated several times tonight, it's not about the renaming of Harris Field. It's only the stadium portion. So there's no disrespect to Mr. Harris. I mean, I know the Harris family. I grew up with the kids, you know, so I mean, there's no disrespect there. So I don't see how that can apply, since it's not the renaming of the field, and also the 3-year rule. It was never on the table. I mean, so that shouldn't apply either. I mean, I remember when it was discussed before I was on council in 2001, and then it was brought up again, and then, you know, during discussion, people were just talking that it would be better if he had been retired. So I think that's why it's coming up now. Sherry's handing me something here. Oh, from Stacy. May I take a moment to look at this, Mayor Bell? Yes, or Stacy, why don't you tell me what you're giving me here?
That is the Homestead Meter, 1959. It's dated. It states that it is 6 new fields, baseball fields, and a football field, and the recreation building. And the Resolution 718 that was passed by the City Council unanimously in 1959 states that all recreation facilities, which at the time Tom J. Harris Field included the 6 baseball fields.
But we're not talking about renaming the field.
No, I understand that.
This is my point.
I understand that. I'm saying the stadium itself has a name, and the stadium itself should not be renamed, because according to your number 9...
Okay, I'm not asking you a question right now, but I will in a minute. I just want to make sure that I understand legally what we're here.
I think that you could clearly make the determination that that it's not a renaming. I think you could look at the facts in front of you and say that. The resolution that named Harris Field doesn't provide a lot of information. It doesn't really describe it, but it says that whereas he was instrumental in obtaining for the city a recreation area now being constructed upon part of the old municipal airport for use by the youth general public of this area, in addition to all the ball teams of the National St. Louis Baseball Club. It doesn't talk, the resolution that names Harris Field does not talk specifically about a field, about the football field.
Right.
It talks about the, they call it a recreation area.
Exactly.
And I think that, because of not, a lot of this was very imprecise, you could draw whatever conclusion you want in terms of the fact that it's been designated or not designated previously. I really do.
And no disrespect to newspapers, but when you put something in front of me from 1959 and there's no way for me to contact the editor or the reporter that wrote the article, I can only rely on what is in the city records. And what I believe is, again, I believe that we're not renaming. I don't think that should apply at all. I'll reserve the right, Mayor Bell, if you don't mind, to ask some other questions as the evening.
You can ask any how you want. Ms. Sierra? Quick question, Mr. Wise. In reference to what I believe it was number 9 that she was referring to, adding to a name, what is the legal? I don't know if it was number 9. It was number 9. It was number 9. It states, named facilities or properties will be for perpetuity. Requests for naming of public facilities or properties will be ineligible where the facility or property has previously been named.
Right.
So adding to the name, which is what she was referring to.
I think that that's another way of saying no more than one name can occur on the same facility or property. So again, it becomes down to a factual issue of whether you feel like
it's already been named or not.
Right.
Okay. Questions? Comments?
Are we done hearing from the audience?
Well, we can call them back up at any time. I'd like to hear from council. Mr. Marcus, you want to go ahead and redress us?
Very quickly, some rebuttal. First of all, I object to, for the record, I object to the introduction of this, quote, petition, end quote. We've not had an ample opportunity to cross-examine, or these people are not present to, for us to, object to at this time. Losing my voice.
The lawyer is showing.
Yeah, I know that. I hate it when that happens. I just took a glance at the petition because it was just given to me. Here I found a copy of it, and if it has a faulty premise, then the whole petition needs to be thrown out in the first place. Number one, it acknowledges that this is the home field for 2 schools, for Homestead and South Bay. That is not true. In fact, it's a home field as was described for 7 or 8, 9, I don't know how many schools, but we have 7. We have entered into the record that there are people in favor of, from the athletic directors or the coaches from Braddock, Coral Reef, Killian, Varela, Carroll City, Palmetto, Sunset, all of these schools that is their, quote, home field. The petition itself has a premise that there was only South Dade and Homestead. That in and of itself is sufficient to, in my mind, discount the petition in the first place. Secondarily, we're talking about the Harris family and the legacy of, nobody is denigrating in any way the great legacy of the Harris family, and that is, we have a tremendous amount of respect for that. And Mrs. Waldman is very astute in recognizing that this is the stadium, and I believe that the reference in the newspaper indicated that it didn't reference the stadium. I have not had an opportunity to read that particular document, but it didn't reference that there was a stadium in existence. It was talking at the time, as I recall, back in the 60s, there was the Cardinals down here. Primarily that was used as a baseball facility. There were some youth football leagues, but I don't remember this. But obviously it wasn't a stadium that exists there today. When I played there, for Coach Drink, I had the honor to play for Coach Drink in the late 60s and early 70s. It wasn't the stadium that it's there today. And we're talking only about the stadium. This is not a football issue. This is to honor a person who's very deserving of this particular recognition. And I can't believe that this is turned into, it's taken an ugly turn. And that's not what we're all about here. That's not what this is really. I believe that it diminishing the history and the legacy of this man. And with all due respect, I would request that this honor be bestowed upon Don Drinkon, and that we do recognize his community service and what he's done for this community by the relatively minor naming of the facility that, by Dale Hardy's recognition, he played more games in than any other person in Dade County, and he was the coach in in that field more than anybody else ever. I think it's a fitting tribute. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marcus. Thank you very much. I do want to say, though, that I don't think that the process at any point has turned ugly. I think everybody on both sides have spoken very, very well, and this is part of the process. And these are the types of situations and issues that really require the patience of Job and the wisdom of Solomon. When, which part of the baby do you split here? So it takes a lot of insight, just on a forethought, to think about something like this and to weigh it out. So I think that the process itself has been a good, fair process. I'd like to hear from everybody who wants to speak, and I'm going to close public debate. So everybody that wants to speak needs that we have not heard from before. So you see, I want to hear from everybody that we have not heard from. So if you have not spoken, please speak now, because we will be closing public debate shortly, and I would really like to hear from council. I tell you what, does anybody else from council, would you guys like to speak before we hear from anybody else from the audience?
Just as Mr. Marcus was speaking, Mayor Bell, I have a question. Has South Dade High School honored him in any way? Have you given any awards? Have the high school recognized him?
Yes, they have.
Ms. Logos, back in May, we had a retirement bash for Coach Drinkon that was second to none. And you all, as a new council, need to know that one of the financial backers was the city of Homestead. The city of Homestead contributed through the mayor and the council and however it comes, a contribution to the retirement party for Don Drinkon, and there were 4 decades of people that were there. There were proclamations from the city of Homestead. There were proclamations from the mayor of Dade County. There was a whole slew of events that occurred. All the principals involved at South Dade High School were there. Past administrators in different areas, they were all involved. But yes, we did honor him in that way. Yes, we did.
Thank you.
Question.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Burgess.
This all started back in 2001, according to the documents I have, and one of the things that was stated in there is that they wanted both parties to go back and try to negotiate a happy package for everybody. Has that ever taken place at any time? And I mean, not being privy to that.
Mr. Burgess, back in 01, when it first came up, it was there are people here that will attest to this. It was not anything to do with anybody at South Dade High School. It was a community thing. And at the time, we at the high school thought it was wrong to do this because he was still actively coaching. And we at the high school thought that that was an issue that was wrong. And that's why it was pulled.
Thank you. He is still working at the school, correct?
Still working, not coaching.
Right, he's still working at the school. Okay. Stacey, you have final comment? I would like to hear, if you don't mind, I'd like to hear from give a final comment. I'd like to hear from anybody who has not yet spoken.
Right. I just wanted to say that the paperwork that I handed to the city attorney and to the city manager is in your packets. It was also included on the CD. Particularly, I want to call your attention to 2 photographs that were taken in 1960 and 1963, and they do identify the football field. They're given to me by Ruth Campbell at the Historic Town Hall Museum. They are entered into the First National Bank of Homestead Archives, I believe, and they were taken by Jack Levy, the photographer. So they do identify the football field. Also, the articles, with no disrespect to any of the editors or newspapers, the articles that you have do clearly say a football field, and it does say recreational facilities. That's the largest in any city in the state of Florida. And to address Mr. Marcus, for my petition, it does state in the petition that it is, additionally, for over 26 years, this football stadium has been a shared home field and an even playing ground for the city of Homestead's 2 hometown high schools, South Dade and Homestead Senior High. Presently, Harris Field is also used by Southridge, Felix, Palmetto, Killian high schools, to name a few. So it does state that. The top of the petition does say petition to oppose the renaming of Harris Field's football stadium. And it also says at the very bottom, my comments, that for the record, I do agree that Coach Drinkon does deserve to be honored, just not at this venue, to honor the Harris family and the legacy, and for perpetuity, the historical integrity of the park.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'd like to hear first from the people who have not spoken, please.
My name is C.A. Hill. Played for Coach Rincon in 1973. Good evening. My name is C.A. Hill. I played for Coach Rincon in 1973, about 33, 34 years ago. I'm a retired police officer for Highway Patrol and Miami-Dade Police Department. Coincidentally, I stopped Coach Rincon on the highway. He didn't know it was me. We on the side of the road hugging, running around the cars, and I wonder what people thinking, like, hey, what's going on? To me, you have to be there to know to experience what went on. 1969, schools were integrated. Coach, I lived in a little house in Goose, a little, what they call a shotgun house. I was born in Mississippi, so I don't know if people know about that. Because of him, it's the reason I'm where I am today. He had the pleasure of meeting my son, who plays for South Dade now. But what the whole thing that boils down to, Coach Rincon was like a father to me, and also I got 10 kids, and he's a father to my 7 boys also. He's met each and every one of them. And I still call him a coach. If you can call a person a coach from 34 years, you know it has to be something with a meaning to it. If you wasn't there between the turmoil and the integration part of it, again, it's not a race issue. If it wasn't for him, who knows, we probably would have been in the middle of what was going on and on the streets, maybe doing drugs or whatever, but he kept us together as a team. My teammate Marcus, we played together. It was black and white. Again, on the football team, we were all one. Coach Rincon is not even enough time to tell what he done for us. Every time I see him, my kids see him, everybody see him, they run to him. After I left in 73, that was the saddest part of the whole school thing, because I hated to leave him because he taught me everything we needed to know. Helped got us in school. My parents had no money to get us in school. Born in Mississippi, working in the migrant part. What kind of money are you going to pay for college? All I have to say, again, the stadium deserves Coach Rincon. I call him Dad. It deserves him, and he has my full support. All the kids, he's still picking up kids. He came by the house, wanted to pick up my kid. I said, no, Coach, I got a ride for him, so just relax. I can get him, get him to school. But in closing, he's a dad to us. I've talked to his wife about an hour on the phone. She had never met me before. And if you ever want to meet a nicer person, family, Coach Rincon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is J.J. Accurcio, and I'd like to say that I grew up here in Homestead, but my wife doubts whether or not I've grown up to this point in my life. I am probably the oldest member of any alumni of either school here this evening, much to my chagrin. That's right, Judy, you were ahead of me in high school, that's right.
Darn it.
I was waiting for that one. Anyway, I got to know Coach Rincon back in the spring of 1970 during my senior year in high school. The only regret that I've had over the last 37 years is that I did not have the opportunity and the honor to play for that man. I've gotten to know him quite well as a person, spent many, many hours with him speaking about everything but football, about life, and some of the things that he's done for the youth of the greater Homestead area over the years. Not only transporting them to and from school, to and from home, to camps, put money out of his own pocket, taking kids from Homestead High School. And let me stop right here. Mr. Burgess, you asked the question just a minute ago if 6 years ago there was an effort, when this first came up, if there was an effort to get together with the 2 high schools and see if we could co-name it. Yes, there was. And as Mr. Fernari said just a few minutes ago that he was against it at that point, I've known that man for 35 years, and we were very close until that issue came about. And we more or less parted ways at that point. It drove us apart. I see this community as having come together very well over the last 37 years. I also
I've had heart surgery once, don't need it again. I've seen it come together very well over the last 37 years. I believe that there are people that are distorting what the true facts are as far as what we're asking for. This is not a school issue. It doesn't have anything to do with South Dade High School. Doesn't have anything to do with Homestead High School. I think some people have distorted that quite well this evening. And it's a situation that hopefully the divisiveness of some people in this community will not continue after this evening. I know that there's been a tremendous healing, and there will continue to be a tremendous healing. In answer to your question, Mr. Burgess, yes, we did make an effort to do that 6 years ago, and it was rebuffed. The situation is that you have an opportunity to honor one who has been in this community for many, many years and done a whole lot for the youth of this community. And I think it would be a travesty not to vote in favor of this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Has anyone else not spoken that would like to speak at this time? I'd like to take further comments from council. Yes, Mayor Bell. Ms. Waldman.
I've been making notes. First of all, I want to correct something. Judy Helms back there, she graduated with me. So there's two 1969 graduates from South Dade Senior High, and I don't want to take all the credit of being the oldest one here, so Judy, sorry. You're so welcome, darling.
I know Judy, she appreciates that.
We were known as the Judy Judys in high school. We graduated in 1969. And for those of you that don't remember those times, it was bad times. I was very involved with the student council, the governing board there in the high school, and I was appointed to a group to try to make peace. We weren't even going to have a graduation. Remember, Judy? We weren't even going to be able to graduate because the tension was so high, and I remember leaving one of those meetings and going to the parking lot and having all my tires slashed, and it was just a really bad time, and I kept involved as an alumni with South Dade Senior High School for several years after that, and this coach, he is just, I've heard people talk tonight, but I'd just like to add a few things that I know about. I mean, there was a kid that couldn't see when the football was passed. He took him and bought eyeglasses for him. Many children from Homestead Senior High reached out to Coach Trincom because they knew that, and Coach, you'll verify this with me, I mean, they knew at that time that they didn't have the connections to get into the colleges. They needed counseling. They needed guidance. And he did that. He didn't care where you went to school. He didn't care if you were in Kendall. He didn't care if you were in at Mays. I mean, there was a lot of children that reached out to him, and he took care of everyone. And Sunset, I think you're the best example of all, dear, because you were pretty much homeless, weren't you? Yeah. And he knew that, and he made sure that he had a place to sleep at night. And then he contacted Dr. Fagan, and they were able to adopt him. And he is their son. He is their brother. And that's the way the coach thinks. That's the way the coach believes. The coach didn't even know anything about this. He didn't know anything about this honor that these folks are asking us to bestow upon him. And I disagree. I think this has gotten dirty. I've read all of it, and there's been bad things said about you, Stacy. There's been bad things said about other people on the Miami Herald blog. I mean, I have gotten tons of, maybe it's because I'm a local girl and I know a lot of people, but I have gotten tons of emails, and I just don't like what's happened. But the most important thing is getting back to basics. We're here tonight because the Human Relations Board moved it 7-4 with one abstention to rename the football field only after the coach. That's why we're here. It was 7-4. The people went through the proper procedure. They did their application. They crossed their T's. They dotted their I's. They did everything that this city asked them to do. We appointed the Human Relations Board. They bring it to us, and now it's up for us to make that decision. And I just think that we're forgetting. And all of this technicality as to 3 years and this and that. I just feel like I'm in a court of law. I feel like somebody's trying to just dissect it to the point to make a legal issue out of it. And when Dr. Milley was alive, I don't know if y'all, Mr. Biondo, you knew Dr. Milley. I mean, Mike Biondo, we're family friends here. So I just want you to understand, it's not about disrespecting Mr. Harris. Not at all. You knew Mr. Harris. I knew Mr. Harris. It's not at all about that. And we have spent years and years and years with Dr. Milley Rodeo ring over there. That's just what it's called. It's Dr. Milley's. That's what it is. So I just think we need to get back to basics and remember why we're here. We're here because the Human Relations Board asked us, they voted in favor of it, and they asked us to move forward with it. So, thank you, Mayor Bell.
Ms. Labos.
Thank you, Mayor Bell. I'd just like to say to both of the sides that presented today that I do appreciate all the work that you put into your point of views. As far as Coach Drinking is concerned, I don't think that whether we should honor him, whether he is a coach worthy of his service, of gratitude that the City of Homestead has to him, that is not what is at issue tonight. I think we all agree, both sides agree, and from what I've read extensively, all the letters that everyone has provided, everything that I read about this coach, everybody's in consensus. This is a great man who has contributed to Southgate High School in this community. I'm not taking anything away from it. And Councilwoman Waldman, I am going to refer to the legality of it, but I want to assure you that I am not referring to that to get hooked on any technicality. I think that anytime we have a process, it is important that we maintain its credibility. We have a process for a reason, and I think that as a new council, we have every right to ask and question about, issue number 9 as far as renaming or not naming it. So I am going to now refer back to the legality of it. As far as the issue, Mayor Val, are we going to vote whether we agree that the field has a name or not?
Well, certainly, when everybody's finished...
Mayor Val, may I just say, I never in any way...
Not yet. Thank you. In a minute, certainly in a minute. What I think we need to do is hear from everybody from council, and there does need to be some clarification. And I think that the attorneys have stated that that can be overridden with a supermajority, but I don't know that that's the appropriate thing to do either. So I think we need to have discussion here, and we need to beat this thing up and decide what we're going to do tonight. So you need to give whatever you think needs to happen or not happen according to what you read. I also think that what's in writing is important as well. So I think there is something that does need to be decided here tonight. And do you want me to go ahead and discuss my feelings on it, or I want you to finish your thoughts?
No, I like to finish. Thank you, Mayor. Yeah. As Vice Mayor Burgess has stated, we do have minutes that are dated back to October 1st, 2001 and September 20th, 2001. And I guess before this past 2 weeks, I did not realize that this issue has been discussed at this length. From what I read from the Human Relations Board, they also... It wasn't a clear majority, and it's not like, and I was kind of questioning through all their comments. I know back in 2001, Mr. Ed Harris made a comment. He made a suggestion, actually, that I think was a good one back then. He wanted to create a Hall of Fame to recognize these leaders, coach, and also others that will follow. I think what we're voting on tonight not only is to rename this field, but also to look, it is our responsibility to look at the next 5, 10, 15, and 20 years. We do not want to set a precedent that we are going to have these kind of battles every year that someone deems that someone in the community needs to be honored in this way. I think that there's ways, maybe a wall that's a Hall of Fame at the stadium, and Coach Stringham can be the first one that can be honored on that Wall of Fame at the entrance, maybe, so that everyone that visits the stadium can recognize that we have honored him in this way. So as of last night, I had not made up my mind. I was listening to both sides tonight, and I think that it's important that we look at whether this can be done, if it violates one of the procedures that we have established for renaming properties here in the City of Homestead, and to go forward from that. So, but I do want to state that we're not voting on whether this man should be honored or not. I think we need to separate that. That brings a lot of emotions to the table, and it's just not what we're discussing tonight.
Thank you very much. This has been an issue that when first brought to me, I'll be honest, when it was first brought to me and first proposed to me, it was the thought of renaming all of Harris Field. When I took a look at it and saw that we were just specifically talking to a football field, that did reframe the debate a bit. But what we have here is something that I stated before, sometimes requires not only patience, but requires the wisdom of Solomon. And the issue, I agree with Councilman Lobos, the issue is not about what a great man Coach Drinkhahn is, because he's a great man. As a matter of fact, right before I came here tonight, I got a phone call from a guy that goes to my church in support of the renaming of Coach Drinkhahn, and I said, oh gosh, because I've had emails against, phone calls left on my answering machine against, phone calls left for, so it's become quite a contentious issue. If anybody has a BlackBerry on up here, please turn it off, because it does that. And it has to be turned off all the way off. So it is a contentious issue, and for that fact, because it's a contentious issue, I think it's something that we have to weigh very, very seriously because of that. I also, when I took a look at this and read everything in it, there are parameters that have been set before us by previous councils, and I think they were wise. And these debates are why many people in many cities and many other municipalities will not name anything after anybody living because of these debates and how they go on, that there's a precedent that's been set for that as well. But we do have Harris Field, and clearly everything under Harris Field is inclusive of Harris Field, Tom J. Harris Field. And I was concerned also about the fact that says the named facilities or properties will be for perpetuity, and requests for naming of public facilities or properties will be ineligible where the facility or property has previously been named. It has been clear to me that all of Harris Field, including the football fields, and by the way, I had decided in the beginning that I was against it, and then when I realized it was just for the football field area, I thought, I'm going to really go into this meeting tonight. I really want to hear both sides. I really want to take a look at it. I really want to examine this and see what is wisdom going to dictate? What is wisdom here going to dictate? I don't think anybody wants to debate what a great man he is. I've heard this over and over and over again. I also have heard many other suggestions, and I also read in the previous minutes about a Hall of Fame. I've also read and thought about renaming portions of the new South Dade High School in honor of the coach. I think that is prime. I think we should petition the school system, the school board, and we have representation from the school board sitting in the audience. I saw you. You didn't think you were going to get away with that, right? So I think that there needs to be the Coach Drinkhahn Field at South Dade High School. I think there should be a Hall of Fame that includes Coach Drinkhahn. But I think because of the contention, because of the good arguments on both sides, where this community has been just fraught with wonderful community leaders. And can I tell you something? To me, it's not about Homestead versus Senior High. It's not. I can clearly see that by all of the support in favor of it by all of the schools, and I thought that point was made very, very well. It's about a man who does deserve honor, who has contributed greatly to the lives in such a positive way to many, I mean literally hundreds and hundreds of kids. But is the renaming of the Harris football field the best way to reward that? And at this point, I don't think so. And I know there's going to be people that are really mad at me about this, but I still think I need to do what wisdom would dictate. Sometimes my mother used to have a saying that she said, when in doubt, you do without. And this has brought a lot of division to the community. In fact, it's not been a uniting thing, it's been a division. And when I talked about the process being clean, I was referring, not an ugly process, I was referring to the process here tonight. But I thought that process has worked very, very well and been a very orderly process. I think that each and every council member here has brought very good points, very, very good points. But I think that it's something that And when I did read the minutes from the Human Relations Board, there was a lot of discussion and one recusal, and people that said this is just not a good idea, and some that said this is a good idea. So at this time, I think we do need to find some venue and some way to honor this great man. I really do, and I do like the Hall of Fame idea. I do like a special place that we can honor these men and women, and there are wonderful coaches that were brought to us as well, besides Coach Stringhand. But at this time, I think wisdom would dictate that we don't go forth at this time with this renaming. But I would like to open the floor to council and hear anything else. And I do think a policy was set forth, and the policy is in writing, and the policy is before us. I don't want to override a policy with a supermajority, because at this time that we think this is a well-deserving man, and I think he is. I think he is a very well-deserving man, and I would like to see us do something for him, more than a proclamation and more than a plaque. I would, and I think we do need to, and I would like to pursue with the Miami-Dade County School Board to naming part of Southgate High School, if not all of Southgate High School, in honor of the coach. I don't know why it can't be Coach Stringhand Senior High School. So I have no problem with that, because Southgate High School is not named after any man, but Tom J. Harris Field is. So with that being stated, I think I've put my opinion on the record, and it's a tough one, because this is a very, very well-deserving man. But I think at this time, wisdom would dictate that we not go forth with this name change. Thank you. I would like to open the floor to anybody else from council before we have a vote.
Well,
Ms. Waldman.
This has nothing to do with the issue, but Ms. Lopez, if you certainly thought that I offended you in any way, it was not my intention. I didn't refer to anything. So I apologize if I offended you in any way.
No, Councilwoman Waldman, I didn't say you offended me. I knew that I was going to go back to the legality of it right after your statement, so I wanted to make clear that I wasn't going into that direction to, separate myself from the issue. That was the reason why I was referring back to it.
Any further comments from council? Yes, Ms. Sierra. Thank you.
Having been an educator for as many years as I was, coming into this particular agenda item, I have researched and lost a lot of sleep over it. Some of you may believe me, some of you may not, and that's okay. I think it's very important when you have an educator that makes such a huge impact on the lives of so many children for so long. I've also received a lot of phone calls and a lot of emails, and I've been stopped at Publix and at BJ's and in all places with many people giving me their opinion as to why it should or shouldn't be renamed. I also want to mention how important it is that maybe as council, if we can assist in finding some kind of venue for us to be able to honor this gentleman who I seriously would love to meet one day. I had a hard time with the renaming. At the beginning, I had received several emails in reference to this, only because I never wanted to take anything away from Harris. And tonight, though, some very interesting facts were stated, which I had not realized. The fact that more than just 2 high schools use this as their home field. The fact that there have been, I believe it was 58 or 38 games taking place there, 5 of which were Homestead and 5 of Southgate. These are all very important issues when you make a determination like this. And I almost feel like it doesn't matter which side I choose, I'm not going to win, because half of the people in the room will be happy and half will not. So there was one statement said tonight, and the statement was, do it for the right reasons. And I need to think for myself as to why I believe this would be a good or not a good idea. And I entertain anybody that would like to speak with me after council and to discuss why my decision is the way it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Vice Mayor Burgess?
As somebody who hadn't been here for 30 years and experienced Coach and all the great things that everybody has talked about that he's done, I went out and did some talking and things to people, found some of the older citizens there that meet at Rex Hall every morning for breakfast. And there were 7 or 8 guys that sat there, and every one of them were in favor of it, and all of them, I would say, are 75 years plus and have been here for a long time, and told me what a great man he was and what an honor it would be to to put his name up there. And the one thing that I see, and it comes to me, is stadiums are renamed. And just to quote what somebody had written in the book here that Ms. Berger gave us, this reminds me of name changes with Joe Robbie, pro player, and the way that Dolphin Stadium is. Harris Field is still, I guarantee you, 98% of the people around here would call it Harris Field if they drive up to it, or if you gave directions to somebody. I think by putting his name on the field, we're showing a great honor to a man who has done so much for this community, things that I have never had to go through that he brought people through, and has shown his service to them. So obviously you know what side I'm on, and I think that it would still be Harris Field to 98% of the people that come around here and do that, but I think we'd be showing a great honor by allowing this to go forth and showing that we do care about people that do great things for our community. And I know that there's a lot of other venues that people would like to put his name up, but that man dedicated his life to football, to kids, from what I've gathered and been told by people. And it's the youth that he cares about, and the football really made him drive kids home, fax homes to the kids about what it is to be a team, to be a leader, and to rely on other people and all that. And I think it would be a great honor if we could do something like that for this man, just by what I've gone out and learned on my own. And I think that all the other things are great ideas, but like I said, Harris Field, we've got a letter from the Harris family here that supports everything that has been asked of us tonight, and I just feel that it would be a great honor, and I would be proud to say yes. And like Nazia said, I've never met the gentleman myself, but I would like to, and just all the stories that I've been told about by numerous people, not just at the breakfast, but everywhere I've gone, everybody that I've asked has been in favor of this. So that's kind of where my feeling is, and I think it would be a great pleasure, a great honor to bestow upon this gentleman for all his service that he has done down here over the 30-some-odd years.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, I appreciate that.
I would like to say real quick, it's kind of disheartening in a sense to know that we would even think about touching the name of Harris Field, and you have a brand new stadium, a brand new school that's being built at South Dade, where the young man or where the gentleman works. So the best thing to do is not temper where a legacy has already been set, but to go ahead and with all these thoughts and process to go ahead and name, like somebody said, the school or even the football field at South Dade after him. Nothing has been touched out there. There's no name on nothing at South Dade. So the best thing to do is initially name the football field or even the school if we can get that passed after Don Dracon.
Right.
But to touch something that's already been a legacy and a stamp in the city of Homestead for so many years, it really doesn't make sense to even bother with that. Because for him, he works at South Dade, and that's in the vicinity of his work base, his family, all the kids. He might go back out to South Dade to visit every now and then. It's a good place to build a base for Mr. Dracon, and if you have to reach out farther than that, you might want to put a memorial in the front of Harris Field with something that would have for Harris. They walk by, they look at it. He taught. He coached from 19 so and so until 19 so and so, and he had a legacy at Harris Field also. But the school, the name can be at the football field at South Dade High. That's why I want to put it on the record.
Thank you, Councilman McCormick. Thank you very much. Any other further comments? I think I'm going to take this as a roll call. Roll call, Madam Clerk, renaming a football stadium.
I don't believe there's a motion.
I made the motion. Yes, there was a motion.
Yes, Councilwoman Wallman.
And a second.
Wendy Lobos.
Yes, thank you. Wait, no.
Vice Mayor Burgess.
Start over. I'm sorry. Start over with the roll call.
Before you start, just so you know, in order to do this, because he is a living individual, it would take 5 votes.
Right. Understand that. Please start the roll call over.
Vice Mayor Burgess.
Yes.
Councilwoman Lobos. No. Councilman McCormick.
No.
Councilwoman Sierra.
Yes. Yes.
Councilwoman Wallman.
Yes.
Mayor Bell.
No.
Motion fails.
Thank you very much. In conclusion, I would like to say to the coach, to Coach Drinkhand, and to the supporters that I would like to work with the group in support to pursue another venue, whether it's some type of a Hall of Fame, or whether it's petitioning the school board of Miami-Dade County, utilizing the Region 6 Task Force, as well as going downtown on behalf of the coach and utilizing some type of form of honoring at South Dade Senior High School. So I would like to avail myself to you towards that end. Thank you very much. I want to thank this audience for just being a wonderful audience, this council for being wonderful. Thank you very much for being decent and in order. Let's give them a moment to clear out before we go on to the next item. So it's over, Mr. Biondo. It failed.
Okay, have a good night.
Here's an extra bottle. Mine's cold. Warming it up. We're not a Harrisville.
Have a good night. If it would please the mayor.
I still love you, Steve.
Doesn't matter, you're whispering.
If it would please the mayor and the council, I have one comment to make as everyone's leaving. I was hoping they would hear this. I have spoken with the Homestead Senior High School teachers, administration, and also with the Alumni Association at Homestead Senior High School. And the last item on your CD and in your packet is the alternative proposal, which is something that Mr. Harris had suggested. So for the record, I'd like to state the three pictures that you have of the front entrance of Harris Field Football Stadium, and also the visitors entrance, and also the home side entrance. We would like to propose creating 2 walks of fame. On the home side walk of fame, we'd like to create a coach's walk of fame, and on the visitors, a player's walk of fame.
Thank you.
And that's for the record. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to move on with the agenda. The final item on the agenda is Harrisfield Pavilion Restroom Project Change Order Request, tab 8.
I'll move it, Mayor.
It's been moved. It's been seconded by Ms. Sierra. Before I open the floor, I have some concerns about this. I took a look at this when I was studying my packet last night. How do we get to $100,000 in change orders? I mean, this is just, how do we get there?
Mayor and council, we currently, to date, on approved change orders, have a number of about in excess of $23,000 of approved change orders. We've reached the benchmark whereby if we approve additional change orders, we'll go above $25,000 and therefore require council approval. But the change orders in regards to construction projects are inevitable. You know, they're going to happen. But if you look at the breakdown of the $95,000 request, $51,000 is the sound and lighting system. Now, initially, that was budgeted or thought to be a separate line item as far as the construction. We were directed by procurement to incorporate this cost as a change order under the general contractor. And similar to what you looked at, I believe, last council with the police command posts, with the modifications they did, rather than issuing a separate purchase order, they went under the same vendor. And that's what we're doing here. So the general contractor assumes responsibility and oversight of the installation of that lighting and sound system. So
was this just an oversight on Parks and Recreation's part that they didn't originally include the sound, audio equipment, and installation, or is this an upgrade to the current bid on the sound installation and equipment? Because that's $51,000 in addition to the wiring, which is another $8,445. So you're talking $60,000 for sound, audio equipment, and wiring. So was this an original oversight, or was this something that was an add-on?
No, last year when we went through this process, we budgeted $43,000 for the sound and lighting system. Now, it came in excess of that. It's the $51,000 plus the cost of wiring and whatnot. So you're looking at some $17,000 increase than originally anticipated.
How did did this compare with the original, the second place bidder, and did it include it, or would it have changed, or would it have been the same?
As far as the sound and lighting? Well, the sound and lighting system was always going to be an additional cost over and above the original bid price.
Okay.
So.
Okay, I have a few other questions, but I would like to open the floor up to council.
Mayor Bell, are we moving and seconded before discussion?
It's been moved and seconded.
Okay.
Mayor Bell, may I add to this?
Yes.
I just think it's very important to know that even though we're taking money away from one park to put into another project...
Clarify which park, Ms. Wallman.
Pardon me?
Clarify which park for us, for the audience.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
The Mayor Russ.
Let me put my glasses on. In order to, the amount is going to be moved from Mayor Roscoe Warren Municipal Project in the amount of $71,429.69 over to this project, and when we have our special call meeting, the same explanation will be given. That money will be reimbursed back into Mayor Roscoe Warren Park later on in 2008. Am I correct?
That's correct.
And I had the same issues because I cautioned the manager's staff today that, you know, we're so shy of parks on the east side as it is that to see money being taken from a park that's going to be a fabulous park with soccer and tennis and water sports and dog parks and everything else, it just looked funny to me because you don't want to take away from an area that doesn't have those facilities. So we have grant issues, Mayor Bell. We have all different kinds of reasons why this money needs to be borrowed from those funds because they have funds that are available right now. We have grant deadlines, which we will risk losing some of our grant money if we don't do what's proposed in the next 3 projects that will be before you in a few minutes.
Thank you, Ms. Waldman. And I understand that. I understand the grant dollars. I do not like seeing such large change orders. I think it doesn't behoove the city. It doesn't look good. How does this affect the budget? Mr. Shahada, you're in charge of the budget. How does this affect the budget?
Mayor, council members, this we have to, again, we have to borrow money from the Mayor Roscoe Warren feed for this particular one. The grants, Councilwoman Waldman, is related to the other 2 items, but this particular one, to be able to cover it, we have to take money away from Harris Feed. I'm sorry, from, still thinking about Harris Feed, from Roscoe Warren. If you ask me, the $53,000 the director mentioned is money was budgeted last year, was not rolled over. It should have been rebudgeted and rolled over, encumbered last year and rolled over. I can't tell you very frankly, and I know he will not be happy.
Stop a second. So it was basically the dollar was allotted and it wasn't rolled into this year's budget.
That's correct.
So this isn't an actual proper number that we're looking at when we're talking about cost overruns because the original amount that was already proposed for this has not been rolled into this.
It was not rolled over. That's why we are borrowing the money from Mayor Roscoe Warren Bark to be able to cover the expenses.
Okay. We need to do a better job on that.
You're absolutely right.
Thank you. Other comments, questions from council?
Mayor Bell, I have a comment.
Thank you.
To refer back to what Mayor Bell was saying, I think my concern is with the original RFP. I understand that change orders will happen when it comes to construction projects. I've been driven by this. This is not a large construction project. I just don't understand how we do not foresee an overrun of $95,000. And to say that tonight, and I don't want to get ahead of myself, but the special call, we're going to approve an RFP. We're going to approve a bid for a certain amount of money. I would hate to think that within 6 months to a year, whenever the deadline is for this project, that you're going to come back to us with a change order of $95,000 to $100,000. It changes the bid process. It does not, I mean, what are we approving at the beginning if we're going to add another $100,000 to a project like this?
Well, I mentioned earlier that change orders are inevitable. The initial design of each project goes through a thorough review process, in-house with our development services. It goes through Miami-Dade Fire, Durham, we sit down with our consultants. We accept it as thorough and as accurate as possible, but even so, like I said, change orders are inevitable. And they're going to run anywhere between 10, 15, 20%. They're unavoidable. No matter how good a plan you think you have in front of you, it's going to happen. And that's what's happened here. There's an issue as far as the city's position is. I'll give you an example. It's our estimation that the building was actually constructed 4 feet too close to the existing pavilion, the restroom building. That's kind of caused a ripple effect with other issues, columns, underground sewer lines, whatnot. That's created additional costs in this project. Now there's the construction company has not accepted any admission of guilt as far as the location of the restroom facility. There's an opportunity perhaps at the end of the project for us to revisit that and perhaps get into some kind of arbitration to recapture some of those monies. But we also foresee additional change orders coming because of the fact that the restroom is too close to the pavilion. It's caused drainage issues. We're going to have to add gutters now to the pavilion and the restrooms. That was not in the original design. It was not an anticipated cost. But because of what's happened, we are going to have to add that, or the likelihood is we could get flooding inside the pavilion.
Was that not planned for? I mean, our architect did not plan for that?
As I mentioned, had the building been constructed, our position is in the proper location, which is 4 feet further away, this would not have been an issue.
I have a question. I'm very frustrated. This is ridiculous. Ms. Lobos.
Sierra.
I'm sorry.
You mentioned that the construction company is stating that they are not at fault, so who are they claiming is at fault?
There's no admission of guilt on the part of the construction company. It's our position that the building was constructed in the wrong location. We have a contract administration that our consultant monitors the construction activity, but he's only on site once a week. So, it was not caught. And the foundation went in 4 feet too close to the pavilion.
4 feet were not caught from 1 week to the other week? Is that what? Okay.
That's huge.
Is there anything that we can?
That's huge.
I'm understanding this now, and
not 4 inches, it's 4 feet. That's huge.
Right, that's what I'm saying. You didn't notice that from 1 week to the other?
Whether the plans were incorrect or whether the building was placed incorrectly, that we're going to be pursuing a claim against one of these two parties. So
I want to know that, by the way. I want to know at what point did we miss 4 feet? I want to know, was it in the design? Was it faulty design? Was it the plan? Was it the actual construction? Who's the construction manager? Who missed this, and how was it possibly missed? I want to know it all.
You missed a firewall.
I'd like to say something.
I have a quick question.
The firewall was not on the original plans. That was an added requirement by Miami-Dade Fire Department. The stage had a wooden surface to the stage area. That was replaced with a solid concrete staging. When Miami-Dade Fire looked at that, they said you either have to construct a handicap ramp adjacent to the stage, or you can use the existing ramp that's behind the stage, which have to put a firewall in. That was after the fact requirement of Miami-Dade Fire.
I appreciate that. That I understand. Mr. Shahada, and then Councilman McCormick. Mr. Shahada.
Mayor, council members, I personally never got involved with the technical part of the change orders, but Mayor, me and Cherie and the construction manager would review every single change order. Some of them are approved and could be water under the bridge, but we will look at every change order related to this project, and we can come back with or write a memo about the status of all these change orders.
Thank you. Councilman McCormick.
The biggest portion of the bill is the sound and audio equipment installation. So I'm trying to figure out what does it include, and is it all necessary?
That is all the equipment and installation. It's the speakers, it's the audio equipment, it's on a rolling cart that's stored away in the back, it's the lighting system that's permanently installed. It's an entire package.
So it's lighting also?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments from council?
Mayor Bell, I'm just not comfortable with the way this has been presented to us. I do not want to make staff feel like we're going to, or I'm going to start micromanaging anything, but to come before us or before me, I'll speak for myself, and to say that we're going to borrow from another account is just not, I mean, this is not a big project. And 10 to 15%, let's give 10 to 15% of change orders. Are you saying that $95,000 represents 10 to 15% of what this overall bid was worth?
If all the money that we have earmarked, the $71,000 we're asking to be moved over from Mayor Roscoe Park, that represents some $21,000 over and above what we had budgeted for contingencies, which was $97,000, plus an additional $50,000 for future or possible change orders, which includes the gutter system. Now, if we spend all that money in its entirety, including the sound and lighting system, it comes to about 18%. If you don't count the sound and lighting system, it's about 13%.
The problem is, at this point, we have a project that's about 80% finished, and how do we stop it now? I mean, it's something, in retrospect, I'm not pleased about this, obviously. I don't think any of us are. But you can't backpedal. Would you like to speak? Would you please come up to the lectern? Thank you. State your name and address for the record, please, and position.
Good evening. My name is Alfredo with Homestead Concrete. My address is 20318 Southwest 324th Street. I'm about 30% ownership of Homestead Concrete. I represent Homestead Concrete. At this point, I would like to go back to the change orders. Every change order that is on this project is not to do anything with the movement of the building. There is a design where there's a fault from our side and from the designer. There's no definite, let's say, not a linear foot, but a dimension from one building to the other that was specified on the design itself. So I will take part of default on that, and we did not question it, but there was lack of from both sides that was not caught, that there was no numbers for where that part is sitting, where the bathroom actually is where it's sitting. So there is some, from the architecture, there is some defaults on that side. As far as the change orders, I don't foresee any of those change orders being a part of it. Anything that has been a part of this has been going to be absorbed by Homestead Concrete if it's our fault. It's got nothing to do with change orders that are pending as we speak. These are from a design point at the end of the project. There will be a list that's going to say Homestead Concrete and it's going to say architect, and half of those will be, or a good portion of that will be from the architect side that change orders came from. That will not be from just the contractor. Out of all those, I think there's probably, off the top of my head, I'd say probably about 3 of them or 4 that are actually mine, from the contractor to upgrade the job. The rest of them will be coming from probably an architect side, the design. That was, things were not added, the gutters. That was, again, I would call for anyways, because the building was so much higher than the pavilion itself. As they talked about the existing pavilion, firewall, all that stuff, drainage was never an issue towards the building change. That was an issue where there was too many oaks in the way, trees didn't want to move them, so they had to redesign the whole drainage system to go around back and forth to make it for this job. But not every single change order came from the contractor. There's a few that did come from, and there's a few more that are going to be coming, but none of this will be from the design portion or from the contractor side to try to make this money. It's basically from the architect side of the design build of the building.
Thank you. And we'll be looking into that as well. All right, Mr. Sullivan?
Kevin Sullivan, 1860 Southeast 6th Court. I'd just like to make a comment. I heard the staff mention 10 to 15% is normal. Let me tell you something. One of the most successful companies in the United States is Walmart. They build Walmarts. They build their club stores, and they build another set of stores. When you sit down at their meeting, the first thing the attorney tells you is there will not be any change orders approved by them. Flat out. If you've ever sat in one of their bid meetings, let me tell you, everybody that's looking for these adjustments, the air goes out of the room. I mean, there is no change orders. So to say that it's a general rule, 10 or 15% as a crossover run, it boggles my mind. I mean, it really and truly does. So I would suggest that somehow, in-house, we have the capability to monitor these when they get off the ground to make sure that we know what we're paying for. Never mind coming back and telling us the building's 4 feet too close, or the gutters are falling into the urinals, or whatever they're doing. I don't know. It's something that has to be straightened out before we get involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. I appreciate your comments, and I agree. I'm going to... Yes, Ms.
I'm
Sierra.
sorry. I have one question. Is there any way to keep record of, or do you have record of companies that we have used, and contractors, architects, subcontracted companies, and how much they come back to us with increases? Is there something on record that we know, so when we make future...
That's available to us, yes.
Okay, yes, ma'am. All right, thank you.
If I could just say something about the money. We're using the term borrowing, but we're really moving money that's going to be there, that is there, but moving money. I think part of it, if not, you don't roll it over. We don't want to come and do a budget change the first month or 2 months into the budget. We'll reconcile that back when we do our mid-year reconciliation on budget items, but we're really not borrowing money from the sense of extra money from somewhere. We're just moving money around. Basically.
I understand that. It's going to be reallocated. It's going to be moved back. Thank you. I'm going to. Any further comments from council?
Is there any, Mayor Bell, authorizing this change order of $95,308.16 with the requirement that any additional change orders come before us rather than just approving additional change orders as may be necessary?
Mr. Shahana said that any future change orders, and we agreed that that would happen, any future change orders will come back before this council. So the only way we're going to move this forward is with the caveat that any future change orders come back before this council. And that's how it's been moved, and let's go ahead.
Mayor, council members, just to clarify, any change orders that are above the city manager's authorization, correct?
Right, correct.
Okay.
Correct. Is Hodge clear on this?
Clear.
I think staff has been given direction, and I think we need to be very cautious in the future, and I think that you have a lot of eyes that are going to be really looking into this, and we need to be very, very aware, and it's one thing to have increases that are on our part, on on behalf of a new code, or we had changes when we had hurricanes because the costs had escalated. Those things are understandable, but we've got to be very, very careful with taxpayers' money. All in favor, say aye. Aye. And the ayes carry. Thank you very much. I will now close the committee of the whole. Thank you for coming, and in a minute we will open the special call. Right. City Homestead special call will come to order at 7:50 p.m.
Excuse me, Mayor Bell?
Yes.
Would you give us a moment, please?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I ruined my quick record tonight.